904 News Talk 820 WBAP. Thanks for tuning in. Casey Bartholomew Show. I'll be with you until 11 o'clock. Stick around after the news at 11. That'll be when the Dan Bongino Show comes on. 800-288-WBAP is our number here. It's 800-288-9227. The big debate was last night. The first opportunity for everybody to see the, I guess we would have to call them the 8 second-tier candidates for the presidency, the Republican nomination for the presidency, met last night in Wisconsin, got fiery at times. Some people looked better than others. Some people were virtually non-existent. There may have been a few surprises, and to delve into all of that, we are going to bring on the line political strategist and commentator from Young Voices, Samuel Mangold-Lenett. Samuel, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Doing well. How are you? Thanks for having me.
So you watch this, you do this for a living. What were your takeaways from last night?
Yeah, so all things considered, I thought the debate was pretty low energy. I think the clear winner was former President Donald Trump, which is ironic considering he wasn't even in the room. But the best performance was, I think, from Vivek Ramaswamy. Mm-hmm. He had the most dynamic presence on stage and presented the most clear and distinct vision for the United States moving forward. I think Governor DeSantis presented a lot of policy nuance, but his presence on stage was really robotic and felt kind of stilted. He reminded me when I was watching him. I kept getting, and I don't mean from a political standpoint, obviously. He reminded me a little bit of Michael Dukakis from 1988. You know, he was very robotic and kind of moved weirdly. I think it was a good thing that he didn't get a ton of screen time last night. Fair, and I just feel like a lot of the people on stage didn't really know what time it was in American politics. Everyone just kind of, it felt like people were debating in 2012, not 2023.
What do you mean by that?
So, whereas, sure, DeSantis might have had that Dukakis effect or presence, but he at least knew what priorities to have. Mm-hmm. Whereas Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, et cetera, really just wanted to talk about cutting taxes and implementing foreign policy from 2009. It just felt like I was in, not to date myself that much, but it felt as though I was watching a presidential debate from when I was in junior high. It seemed pedantic. It didn't seem like anybody actually understood the priorities of their voting base and just wanted to talk about what their special interests wanted them to talk about and kind of pivot the Republican Party back away from the conservative populism that it's currently embroiled in.
And you think Ramaswamy represented that the best?
Oh, undeniably so. I think Ramaswamy actually he's the best communicator for the alienated Americans who feel as though they've been abandoned by the neoliberal uniparty.
I'll be honest with you, I watched it. I didn't see a lot of substance from him, and to me, he came off like a game show host a little bit with his mannerisms. So I honestly was a little disappointed by seeing him because I didn't have a lot of experience with him, and it's his first time on the debate stage. And he had said before the debate that he wasn't doing a lot of prep, and I think it showed last night from what I saw. But who do you think was the biggest loser last night?
I think I think Asa Hutchinson is just the biggest loser in America just because he is a thoroughly unlikable individual. I think his presidential candidacy is a joke. I think he's grifting small dollar donors and not to be exiled from the United States.
I would have to agree with you there, but I didn't understand why he was there. I got nothing out of him. I didn't get any excitement from him. I didn't get any. I couldn't tell why. I could at least get a grasp on why most of them were running. Hutchinson, I didn't even understand why he wanted to be there.
He's there because he wants to sell books. He's there because he wants to get rich. He wants to hear his name said by important people and get medals because he's a nice Republican. He's just a thoroughly gross human being.
Have you met him? Did he wrong you in some way?
No, I just really. It goes back to that Tucker Carlson interview he did where he was basically just saying he's okay with castrating children because Ronald Reagan and Bill Buckley without actually understanding what either of the two stood for. And he's just a controlled opposition candidate who just wants to make he's a grifter, and I don't respect him.
And what did you think of Tim Scott? Because I'll be honest, I didn't know a lot about Tim Scott. There was some enthusiasm for his candidacy when he announced, and last night I just got nothing out of him. I was not impressed by him at all.
Yeah, Tim Scott, I think is I think not necessarily a bad candidate. He's just, again, not representing the priorities and interests of the current GOP base. Mm-hmm. He's a perfectly fine senator. He's a reliable R vote, but one, he hasn't really accomplished all that much in the Senate other than just the tax cuts, mm-hmm. Which, again, tax cuts aren't going to fix a dying republic. They just simply aren't. But he's not that effective of a communicator for, the America First movement. He just simply isn't.
Yeah, I got that. He was not a community. He's not a smooth speaker. There wasn't much about him that was particularly charismatic. And you can say what you want to say, and I don't mean you, I mean anybody can say what you want to say about politics right now. You do have to be an effective communicator, and there has to be some charisma there. And I didn't get that from Tim Scott.
Right. And all things considered, I think he's a charismatic guy. I think that it's just not his moment. Mm-hmm. Maybe if it was 2016, things could have gone differently. I really just don't know. Mm-hmm. I think he's a better communicator on behalf of special interests and more niche causes than he is for whatever this current moment is.
What about Christie?
Christie he's a kamikaze candidate. That's been pretty explicit from the beginning.
That's true. Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it. I actually know him personally. I thought it was hilarious when they were booing him. I thought it was a great moment. But the downside is, like I said, I know him. He doesn't care. He's doing this for the moment, and I think that's the best way I've ever heard him described as a kamikaze candidate this time around. But he didn't have any big moments that stood out to you.
Not particularly. I mean, calling the bake, Chat GPT, I think that's, sure, it's whimsical, but I don't really, when you're spoiled with Trump's, just boomer comedy routine, the canned, comebacks don't really land anymore. I prefer the in the moment, just calling people stupid and ugly. That's Trump's, we're spoiled with Trump being a comedy god. So it doesn't really work for me anymore.
Yeah. I've always thought that Christie is trying to be Trump,
right,
as a politician. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the little bit more of a reserve to him, I guess, for lack of a better word. Whereas Trump will just say anything. Christie tries to be Trump, but hold back just a little bit.
Right. He's Ray Liotta in a worse suit.
There you go. There you go. So the big winner, Trump, you think, last night?
All things considered, yeah.
Yeah. And nobody, I don't think anybody did anything last night to change their position. I don't think anybody is going to get a jump in the polls from last night, but more importantly, I don't think anybody did anything to take anything away from Trump.
Well, I think that, so the way I look at it, there's three main lanes that candidates are kind of operating. There's the Trump lane, which is, obviously occupied by Trump. Yeah. There's the alternative to Trump lane, which is occupied by DeSantis and Ramaswamy. Mm-hmm. Then there's the third lane of holdovers, which is occupied by all the squished moderates. Mm-hmm. And the third lane is trying to, dethrone the other two in the second lane. I think the people in the third lane, I think their supporters are going to realize these people all suck, and they're going to go start supporting the people in the second lane. Yeah. So I could see, Asa Hutchinson's people and, Tim Scott's people going to support DeSantis, and maybe Haley's and Burgum's go support Ramaswamy. Mm-hmm. I don't particularly know. But there's obviously no chance Chris Christie, Asa Hutchinson, Doug Burgum, and the others are going to make it much longer. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to put the house on anything in politics. Yeah. But I just the three people who really have energy behind them, rather the two people who have energy behind them, are Trump and Ramaswamy. DeSantis has some institutional support and some energy behind him, mm-hmm. but the rest simply do not.
And the next debate is at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley on September 27th. I guess we'll see if anybody drifts off, or we'll see if anybody learned any lessons when that comes up. Hey, Samuel, thanks for taking the time to come on. We really appreciate it, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Thanks for coming on. That was political strategist, commentator from Young Voices, Samuel Mangold-Lenett, with his reaction to the debate.